You don't remember the JVC one?
No, bruv, the thing with the Burgundies late. That's like 06, 07 and that.
Yeah,
that's like 06.
That was lit though, innit?
Yeah, that was actually a cold one still.
But still, though, your team's still dead.
Don't shout because Liverpool keep taking L's. You were first last season, now you're like sixth.
You know what's mad? This is not even diverted. We're actually live.
I know we're live. I see it in the corner, fam. We're here, fam. We're here. Hey, listen, whoever's watching, just know this is how our conversations normally start, yeah?
Yeah. I thought I'd try to do it a bit different. Usually what we do is we try and stop all the banter beforehand and then jump straight into it like we're serious and professionals. Let's do a proper one so it looks it. So anyway, for everyone that is watching, welcome to the Finesse My Finance podcast. Today's going to be a bit different. So instead of talking about like things that revolve around finance, business, and all that kind of stuff, this still does revolve around it. But what the focus is today is mentorship and accountability. So before we jump into that, let's just do some introductions. My name is Michael, obviously owner of KBM. For those who have been watching before, you know there's a few podcasts that we do. Normally, the Finesse My Finance podcast is usually for financial experts. We've got the adults on, blah, blah. Then we have another podcast with Gen Z, so the young people, that Adam and Jonas are usually part of. But now they've jumped into this one as well to talk about mentorship and accountability. So we're mixing it up today. So it should be quite good. There's going to be plenty of banter for guys who've been watching before. You know how it goes. There's going to be a lot of laughs, but there's going to be some gems dropped as well at the same time. So before we move on, let's do the introduction, starting with Adam. Go on.
Thank you, Mike. Hi guys, my name is Adam. I'm currently 18 years old, deputy head boy at my school, and a peer mentor at the 100 Black Men of London. So excited to be here.
So excited.
It's Kevin Hart, innit?
Yeah. You know. Who's next for introductions?
Ooh. Hello, kings and queens. My name is Jonas Andrew Phillip. I'm 19 years old, and I've also gone through the 100 program. I'm 19. I said that already. I'm a public speaker, workshop facilitator, and event host. And Adam, can I just say, Adam, I think, as Michael said, we're usually on Gen Z, but now we're with the adults and we've got the wonderful Vanessa here. But Adam, we've leveled up.
I must
be proud of ourselves,
New season, bro.
Michael, thank you for having us.
Right, it's no rise, man. You know at the start, everyone was like, you know what, I know the alphabet and stuff.
I know, I was waiting for thinking, why is man them stalling and that?
Go on, Kieran.
Oh, snap. See what I'm saying? I'm Kieran Lawrence. I'm 30 years of age, and I'm one of the mentors in the 100 Black Men of London. I'm also a recent author, so I want to just chuck that in there. That's me, man.
Hey, let's see the book.
Show us the book, big man.
Okay, so how do you think? We'll talk about it later, but yeah, recent author and that, but yeah, Kieran Lawrence, 30 years of age, 100 Black Men. Cool.
Come on.
Love that, bro. My name's Lewis Howell. I'm also a mentor at the 100 Black Men of London, but also I run a couple of social enterprises that revolve around, youth empowerment and development, as well as social mobility and EDI. So, very excited to do the different works that I do, and just excited to be a part of the podcast again, man. I swear to you today, I'm going to try not to babble on too long, because apparently it's only the ones that I'm on that go for 2 hours, fam. So let's see what we can do. It's
a good thing, though. It's a good thing. It means that the conversations keep flowing.
This is it.
Hi, everyone. My name's Vanessa Crevel. I'm also 19 years old. I'm currently an undergrad at University of Cambridge studying history. And I've been involved with the 100 Black Men for 19 years. I've been a peer mentor. I've gone through the program. I've been a peer mentor. I've been a mentee. And yeah, it's just a great time being here with you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Shy, there's some back. Feedback on this. I think so. On my, is it on my one? Or is it feedback?
Everyone mute and then see what happens there.
That seems to be blessed at the moment, though.
Is it working?
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Cool.
All right, bless. All right, so obviously all of us are from the 100, so I think most of us know each other from mentoring. So what's your guys' definition of mentoring? What a mentor is?
Well, Vanessa, you've been a mentee for your whole life, and then you're now a mentor, so you might as well go first.
I feel like a mentor for me is someone who just provides guidance in whatever aspect of life that you need it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of your business. It can be in terms of your education. It can be in terms of just maybe your spirituality, in terms of just general life. So I feel like a mentor for me is someone who just helps you throughout that process of life, wherever you might need the help. So that's what a mentor is. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
I think I'd also add to that to say that usually what helps to make someone more valuable of a mentor is if I've got one of two things to add to what Vanessa rightly said, which is that they've either trodden a path that you've trodden and therefore they have direct experience that will go about being able to support the journey you're going on, or they come from a particular community and therefore can understand your experience in a way that is more likable because of the fact that they share similar characteristics, be that the demographic or whatever it may be. So therefore, that means that the kind of advice that they're giving you or the perspective that they're going to be able to uptake as a result of listening to you is going to be more accurate, you know? So then when they do, as Vanessa said, give that guidance, you know, be able to point you in the right direction where necessary, potentially provide advice, it's going to be a lot more relevant. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, I think both of them, everybody touched on it already, kind of thing. Someone that, how I define it is just someone that knows the way, has actually gone the way, and that now can just show you the way, and actually help you to cut that learning curve down. So if it's someone that's made a mistake and said, okay, I went this way and I lost that amount of money, for instance, if it's to do with business sides, and it's actually saying, okay, don't do that same mistake, but actually try this route, because I know that this route, it's got a proven track record of X amount of people, and including myself, have gone down that route now, and it actually has the results that you want. So I feel like a mentor actually should have the results that the mentee is actually looking for before that relationship even begins to move towards that mentee-mentor kind of relationship. But
Yeah, just to add to what everyone's saying, everyone said exactly what I think. So I think just to add to that too, in my opinion, you also don't really need to know your mentor personally, because your mentor could be someone that's famous, for example, that's done what you want to do, and you may want to mirror what they've done. So for example, if you're a rap artist, for example, you could mirror what Jay-Z is doing and he could be your mentor even though you don't know him. I personally feel it's best that you do know who your mentor is on a personal level so that you're close and you have a good relationship. However, you don't need to know them personally because, you know, success leaves clues. So if you see someone like Jay-Z, you can research what they've done, see what they've done, listen to their interviews, and bang, you can legit go around saying Jay-Z's your mentor. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. And yeah, it's best when you know when you're young and you may not know what you're doing. Sometimes when you're older, you don't know what you're doing. Your mentor doesn't really specifically have to be in a specific career. They could just be someone you want to be like. But if you know what you want to do, then I feel like your mentor should be someone, as Adam said, and as Lewis said, has done what you've done and has the credentials, not just grades, but also what they've achieved in their life and their career that you want and you desire.
And I think Jonas makes a really interesting point there. So I think if anyone's watching this and wants to actually go away with a key takeaway, there's self-awareness and self-assessment is critical there, because for you to be able to see someone who you don't personally know and therefore you're not asking personalized questions to that individual as your mentor, you have to have a certain level of self-awareness to go, is what they're talking about in this interview, which was not designed for me, how can I make it relevant to my situation? That requires self-awareness. That requires you to go, do you know what? I need to apply that to myself, you know, or do you know what? Yeah, that's a gap in what I'm doing. Or hold on a second. How can I actually go about considering where I can make adjustments, make improvements, all of that? And actually, that's why I think what Jonas is suggesting is actually good practice, because if you choose to have a mentor that you do not personally know, and then you're relying on secondary sources to provide your mentorship, it's forcing a habit of accountability and self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? You're forced to do it because you don't know them. You're not chatting to them. So now you are forced to be more self-aware. You are forced to self-assess because you're seeking mentorship from someone that you don't know. The one thing I would say, though, is that for some people, this is where the self-awareness is even more important. Don't think just because you watch hella interviews of 50 Cent that you're now going to be some mad TV producer. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not getting onto Jonas here, because Jonas is actually, he's got good self-awareness. I'm only using the 50 Cent example because he likes to bring 50% into all my platforms. And used to relax, fam. Do you know what I'm saying? We're here to talk about SoCal, man, sending about 50 Cent. But anyway, yeah. just because you watch all of 50 Cent's interviews, that does not mean that what he's saying in those interviews is directly relevant to where you are today. Some people actually do need to go and get a mentor that's at a slightly lower level because they're closer to where you're at now. Like, I'll be real, if you're just starting, I don't know if Warren Buffett should be your mentor for investing. Where he is a whole different thing, fam. He's been doing this for 60 years, fam. 70 maybe. The man's been doing it for 70 years and he's making billions, and you're telling me with your £100 that's your mentor. Relax, bro. Go and get the person who just made 10 grand last week. Go and start there. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's worth considering. So yeah.
Yeah, also just to go on what everyone said, basically what a mentor should be. I think a mentor should be the person who we needed when we were younger. You know what I'm saying? That's what a mentor should be. And if there's a difference between, obviously, when you have a mentee, you shouldn't just tell them what to do, you should show them as well. Make it be visible. Do you know what I mean? You're all going to telling them to do something, but if they're not seeing it, how are they supposed to know what to do? So you can tell them it, but you also show them at the same time, as well as guidance and advice, because obviously we're dropping gems, but they need to see it as well. You know what I'm saying? So that's very important when it comes to mentoring as well.
Yeah, and I feel that. I think that's, for me, that's more along the way that I see mentoring as well. It's like I feel like with everyone that I've come into contact with in terms of like being a mentor for them, I can always see a little bit of me in them. There's some part of it. It might be like one little personality trait that they might do something, and I'll be like, oh, I remember when I used to do that. So then now it's easier for you to go and help them with that thing. But the thing is, you can't go and one thing I've noticed though from being a mentor is you can't go and tell that person they need to change that thing or they need to work on that thing. You need to like kind of put it into their life without even them realizing. And then in a year's time, they're like, oh, do you know what? I did this. And you're just smiling because you're like, I remember how you was a year ago, bro. Like whatever. Is that even yesterday? I think yesterday was the first time I've seen Vanessa in time. And she came on the Zoom, and I was looking. I went, I don't even know. You've grown up in it, like the saying up. You've grown up, but you know what? You can see that the person's adapted. Like there's like obviously Vanessa was doing great things. All of you guys are doing great things before. When you can see someone, especially when it's been a while as well, you can see, okay, so without even saying anything, I can see that you've learned from that thing, or there was something that was pulling you back or whatever. But I think every single person, especially like we've got 3 of the young people on here now, the way I see it personally is when I'm mentoring someone, and this is obviously everyone's got a different way of doing it. I don't see it no different than you being my brother or sister. You're just my little brother and sister. That's it. I don't see it as I'm your mentee or mentor or whatever, or like teacher student kind of thing. I don't see it like that. I see it as brother and sister. So the same level of respect that I would give like my family member or something like that, it's the same level of respect I'm going to give you. The same level of openness that I give, the same level of openness you're going to receive. So I'm going to tell you things that you're not necessarily not want to hear. And I think Jonas is the most, out of everyone, probably Jonas has heard the most things. Like, I think he's come to me expecting me to comfort him, and I'm like, boy, I don't want you to tell me, bro. I don't know what you want to tell you. This is life. You better understand it now, especially as a black man in this world. You better understand these things. So with mentorship, for me, yeah, I don't see it as anything other than being a big brother to someone.
And also having that, not a deadline, but also you as a mentor. So I was talking about their self-awareness for mentees, but mentors have to have self-awareness, and they have to be aware of when your mentee needs to now almost break away from that mentor-mentee relationship. Mm-hmm. And you have to start seeing them as a peer. Like, I look at the 3 young people here and I go, they're my peers. They're not my mentees. Mm-hmm. They're my peers, isn't it? Like, we're both just professionals doing our thing, and therefore we're supporting each other as peers. And I think mentors have to be aware of that as well, because sometimes I think mentors, whether it's conscious or not, might actually want to maintain the position of a mentor or some sort of power dynamic. And it's like, that's driven by ego. Like, you just want to be able to say, oh, do you know that I used to mentor Vanessa? Or do you know that I mentor Adam? Like, fam, what, who cares, bruv? They're doing their own thing now. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, let them thrive, bruv. Do you get what I'm saying? Why are you still trying to be such a significant part of their journey? You were there for a period of time to provide the support they needed. Now they're spreading their wings. They're doing their thing. So I think mentors also have to be self-aware about you do realize you don't need to be engaging with them as much in the same. You know, they haven't asked you for advice in the last 6 months, but you're still trying to give advice. They don't need your advice. They have not come to you asking for advice in 6 months, yet you're still trying to send them weekly messages with guidance. Big man, they never asked for that. Relax, bruv. Do you get what I'm saying? Go and talk to someone else. Like, actually be self-aware that now they've grown, they're doing their thing, they're gone. Do you know what I mean? That's very important. But also to acknowledge the question that's coming via YouTube: is it important to be a visible example? I think so. I think if you consider the rearing and nurturing of any human being, we don't do what people say, we do what people model. Like, that's how children grow up, right? They model the behavior of what's in their environment. I know for me, and I don't actually think I'm speaking on behalf of just myself here, I'd like to assume that most people here agree, we're very switched on to hypocrisy when we're young, fam. Like, when I see an adult when I'm young who says this but doesn't model that behavior, I literally write them off. In my head, I write them off. I'm like, you're a fraud. You're a fraud. What? You're telling me that I should invest my money? I've never seen you invest. I've never seen you invest. Go on, show me where your money is. Go on. You're buying fags. What's that? Go on, show me where your money is. Do you get what I'm saying? You're buying Hennessy and you're going club. Go on, show me where your money is. Do you get what I'm saying? What? You're telling me that I must be committed to personal development. Show me one book you've read in the last 6 months. Go on, show me. Go on. Wait, show me where you bought a course. Go on.
Then
Go on.
This is due to that self-awareness that you need. So self-awareness you need as a mentor and as a mentee as well. So you need to know where your lane is as well.
Trust me.
And linking back to what you were saying before, there's another thing that selfishly you can get out of being a mentor as well. Like, I feel like when I'm mentoring, especially the young people and stuff like that, I feel like I'm growing because I'm mentoring them. Because as I'm showing them things, they'll come out and be like, oh, did you know about this thing? I was like, now what's this? What's that? But then you've got to have that self-awareness as well and take the ego out of it so that they can show you that. So you're learning from them as much as anyone else. Like, I don't think at this stage now, for anyone on the now, I would never say to anyone that I'm their mentor. But I think it's like what you're saying. Some people have that ego thing where they want to keep it and say, no, their success is down to me, you know. And it should never be like that. If anything, I think I watched, especially the 3 that are on now. I watched them and I'm like, I need to keep up, you know, because these guys are going. The gap between us now, I said, you guys are disappearing, and I'm like, I need to catch up with these guys now. So it's almost like the roles are flipped, and that's how I feel like when you're doing mentoring, it should get to that stage. It should get to that stage where the roles flip. So it's on there. Like before, I remember when there was a time when I brought Jonas to an event to come and do this thing. These times now, Jonas is throwing an event, and me and you are coming on now. Like, what? That's a bit. How is that flipped around like that? That's mad. And but it's
man's got people that I want to introduce Jonas to, and then I go on LinkedIn and he's already working with them. I'm like, well, then I don't even need to do introductions anymore. You guys say it.
But it's wicked. It's wicked to see, because I always look at it like this. It's like, so I remember that even the other day I messaged Adam and I saw like one of his preachings that he was doing, and I was like, Chad, this guy is a different level. Like, I can read the Bible from now to the end of my life and never preach like what I saw Adam doing. Like, I'm thinking, what the hell? But that's what I mean. So it needs to be like that, though. But it's even with every single one of the people that I remember. But you know what? I've got too many stories. I'm gonna jump off.
Do you know? Like, I think for me, just touching on what Lewis was saying about awareness, about us mentors have to have awareness. Is like, we got to be aware. We have to have like a level of authority. We don't want to be too much to them. At the end of the day, when it comes to the younger mentees, they go to school, they're seeing their teachers, their parents, and everything like that. So at the end of the day, it's for us to be like, you know what, we're not your parents. Like, we can be like we can be your brothers, your older brother. You can talk to us on the level. At the end of the day, there's different generational thinking. You know what I'm saying? And they're getting it from their teachers, they're getting it from their parents. So when this gets to their parents, they're like, you know what, I don't want to listen to my mum. So if we come like their parents, they're not going to listen to us. So what we got to do is like, you know what, let's kind of not be their friend, because at the end of the day, the way your mum said to you, don't talk to me like one of your school friends kind of thing. It's not like that, but it's like this kind of understand them on a level. You feel what I'm saying? So they can actually relate to us rather than coming at them like their mum or their teachers. Because if we come to them like that, then it's going to be like a roadblock. know what I'm saying? So we got to be aware to ourselves to have a different level of authority when it comes to our mentees.
Yeah. Sorry.
Jonas, go on.
Oh, thank you, bro. So I just got to say this because I remember there was a time when I met someone and I was talking about me and Mike because I think me and Mike were on the phone, and I finished the call and I was like, oh yeah, I was just chatting to my mentor. And this was about 2019. And I said, one time he did something, because me and Mike have always had the bantery relationship regardless. So it's always been a thing of like, we don't get offended when we do certain things because, you know, it's all love. And I remember, I think I said something to, like, I said, what are you doing, mate? Or something like that. And I was telling someone the story about it. And then they were like, what, you call your mentor mate? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh, well, I know young people that if that happened to them, they wouldn't have any discipline. And I was like, well, I'm not that young person. And it's a brotherly relationship. How are you? You're coming like a teacher. I'm not going to listen to you if you're coming to me like I'm a teacher. Yes, you can. There's always going to be boundaries because at the end of the day, I'm a young person. I'm a minor. So there's always going to be boundaries. But if you make that boundary so visible and apparent to that young person, they're just going to switch off from you. So don't be a teacher. That's the thing. You think young people like their teachers. I'm sorry. Like they don't. They don't like the majority of their teachers. Let's not lie here. They don't. There are some teachers they do like, but a lot of them they don't. So as a mentor, they hate being in school as well. So why would we treat it like school when they don't even want to be there in the first place? That's the thing. So if you really want to have a beneficial relationship with your mentees, don't come like you're a teacher because it's not going to work. Not just with the young people that hate school, but even with the young people that like school, because trust me, they're sick of it too.
Can I just add on to what Jonas said? I feel like it really depends upon what age you are as a mentee and what age the mentor is. Because in my experience of having mentors throughout my life, kind of on first sight, I would kind of be like, yeah, I don't think I've had one specific mentor who's guided me through a certain period of my life or anything like that. But because I started in the 100 really young, I started when I was 8 years old, I feel like the kind of teacher-student relationship was something that I was akin to, or something that I kind of understood. And in that sense, that's why I responded to it, as opposed to coming at it as, oh yeah, you're my peer, because I was only 8 years old. And I feel like at that age, it's kind of difficult to kind of understand, okay, so they want to be my peer. I don't understand. They're meant to be teaching me things. But then I feel like once you grow up and develop, that's when you can kind of have that kind of peer relationship with your mentor. And I feel like mentorship especially should be a two-way thing. I feel like that's what I've experienced throughout my time at 100 and literally just going through life, because lots of the mentors who I had and lots of the mentees that I've had, they've taught me things that I didn't know, especially sitting in the class with like lots of 12-year-olds and things like that. You're learning things about the younger generation and you're really sitting back and thinking, wow, like I wasn't like that when I was young, but it's really interesting to see how people have developed throughout time. And I feel like that kind of relationship between mentors is important, but at the same time, you have to recognize where you have to be a slightly different kind of mentor depending on the person and depending on where they are in their life. Yeah.
I think one of the things
sorry, no, you was going to go on because I was going to answer, but there's two brilliant questions here. I was just going to answer one of the questions, but obviously you can go ahead and say what you want to say. I'll answer the second question. It's about why people have negative connotation towards having a mentor, but I'll let you finish off and then I'll go.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was just going to ask you guys a question. So I was going to start with the first one I can see on YouTube, which is, are some mentors seeking to, that word is mad. Okay, live their life basically through their mentee.
I had to Google it. I had to Google it.
Hey, wait. Hey, before we go on, I had to tell people yesterday that I'm finance and maths guy and business, that's it. English, I'm not a wordsmith. Someone tell me how you say that word before we move on.
Vicariously.
Vicariously.
Thank you. Okay. Vicariously. Are some mentors seeking to vicariously live the life they desired through their mentee?
Some parents are trying to do that.
Hi, lads, let's switch off the whole team.
Some parents are trying to do that through their children if you're not careful. But no, on levels though, like the fact of the matter is, it does happen, and this is where the ego thing comes in again. Some mentors, that is the case, whereby they may be doing it to serve their own And again, it can sometimes be subconscious and unconscious if we're not careful. Some people may be doing it consciously if it's for the sake of just being able to say that it makes them look like they care about the next generation, giving back, looking good. Some people, as you said, it's a case of trying to live their desires because they feel as if they didn't get the opportunity to get to the level they wanted because of whatever excuse they're willing to make. And so then what they do is they go, rah, but if I pour into the next generation and I make them win, it still makes me look good. And it's like, okay, what you haven't considered there is that each human being does have a slightly different path, does have a slightly different take on things. And therefore, if you're doing it for the purposes of being able to, you know, live your own desires, which again, as I said, you may not even realize you're doing, you really have to check yourself and go, is this a selfless act? Because if anything, all of us, and this is probably going slightly away from the question to come back, I do think all of us have a responsibility of playing a part in the next generation's lives. And that goes for every single human being. Every single one of us have a responsibility for doing that, because the way in which any species goes about maintaining its existence is by learning from those people in that species that went before it. So the fact of the matter is, doesn't matter whether you are in what profession, where in life you are, you have a responsibility of being able to pour into the lives of young people. That's just truth. So therefore, we all should consider how we play a mentoring role. But that is not to say that the person who comes across as going above and beyond to be a mentor is any better than, and I use this example a lot, the person who just realizes that, oh, hold on a second, I've noticed that one of my children in school, their friend, tends to go to after school club because their parents work late and they're right now they're not really enjoying after school club. Let me just invite them to my house after school, and maybe I just give them food and chat to them a little bit about how their day was, and if there's homework, help them a little bit. What, are they not as good a mentor as the person who goes to the 100 and, you know, gives up their time every 2 weeks? No, they could be even better. We don't know. So mentorship comes in many forms, and it's about how selfless to an extent is your act, because it should be, you know, which is why the 100 model, by rights, the 100 model is actually quite admirable, because of the fact that people are going there not only voluntarily, but also for the men paying to be there. So you would hope, therefore, that people are doing it selflessly. But yeah, we have to be careful with that.
Just to go on, so what Lewis said, like, I think you just said it plain as day, like, it's the egoism. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not even just mentorship, bro. It's about, like, parents do it as well, because there's a sense of maybe jealousy, because you know what, they didn't get the opportunities, or they didn't do what they wanted to do when they were younger. But you know what, let me kind of not even guide them, tell them what to do, because that's what I should have done. Nah, so before you get into mentorship, or even as parents, you should think to yourself, right, boom, let me have some introspection and see, why am I actually doing this? And think to yourself, if it's a good reason and it's for them, not me, it's for them, then go ahead and do it. Because I do think there's so much egoism and jealousy when it comes to the younger generation. We need to check ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So just to go on what Louis said, I think you just said it plain as day, homie.
Yeah. And what do you guys think? You young people, what do you think? You think that people try to live their lives through you sometimes when they're mentoring?
I haven't experienced it. I'd be able to tell if I experienced it. I haven't been able to experience it gratefully and thankfully, but I can tell when other people do it, and I can see it. I've seen it happen, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna say on it. Really, I need to be professional, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna say on it.
I feel like there's like a fine line between somebody trying to live their life through and someone trying to give you the opportunities that they never had. So to kind of be like, oh, I never had this, so therefore I really want to push you to do this, as opposed to I never had this and I want you to do it so I can be like, oh, I'm the one who gave you this. I feel like there's quite a fine line between those two kind of ideas. But just linking on to what Lewis said, it just reminded me of a biblical quote, the idea that iron sharpens iron. And I feel like in terms of that, it just kind of describes the whole mentorship experience, because it's like you're both kind of bouncing off of each other, you're teaching each other, and it's a two-way streak in that sense. But yeah.
Just adding on to what Vanessa's talking about as well, and what Lewis is talking about, I do think that sometimes, maybe not so much me, but in the lives of like other people around me, or I feel like some people try to, it's almost like it's someone kind of like leeching off of you sometimes. So they might see you get to a certain level and say, okay, I know this person. It's like 9 times out of 10, they're gonna go really far in life. So they'll try and get onto your journey because they know that you're not almost there, kind of thing. And this doesn't always happen, but I have seen it a lot. For instance, parents, especially in our community, they wasn't willing to take their children to football throughout their 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The second they hit academy, their mum, every week they're driving them. Without the child, you have to ask questions. Oh, I'm taking you to football today. Oh, I'm going to stand in the crowds in the rain. But just because they know that you're so close to getting that achievement, you're so close to reaching your life goal. So I think, obviously, not everybody's like that. Some people genuinely have real intentions to say, okay, regardless if this person doesn't make it or they do make it, I just want to pour into that young individual because I know that there's something that I wish I had, but I didn't get. So they want to actually give that to the young person. But there are obviously other people that have selfish, ulterior motives, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why, like, even like I'm bringing up a fictional show, but in Power, everyone's gonna say don't spoil it, but it's from season 1, so it came out 2014. So it doesn't really matter. But essentially, what happened was most people know the show, but there's a character called Tasha, whose daughter auditions for the school concert, and essentially she doesn't get it because she's a black child in a white school, and we all know that's the reason. So her mother didn't pour into her when she was young, but she wanted to be a singer. And her daughter, it wasn't touched on if she wanted to go into singing, but she had an interest in it and she wanted to be in the musicals and stuff. So what she did was she ensured she poured into her child and encouraged her daughter, because she wanted her daughter to have what she didn't have and have that opportunity, but she wasn't going to force her to do it. So I think personally that's very admirable from that mother. But if you're doing it from a selfish perspective, as everyone has touched on, it's not really admirable and it's quite egotistical. So yeah.
You know what? It's the other example is like how James St. Patrick was trying to do everything so that their kids didn't go on the street and everything. Like, got to give them a better life than what he did. So yeah, when I think Adam and Vanessa were both saying there is that thin line between the two. But when it does happen, it's very clear to see that someone's doing it. Especially when they're like, do you know what? I'm not going to say anything because people are watching in it. But anyway,
do you know what?
Be professional.
But even just using because Jonas brought it up, using the Power example a little bit more, and you just mentioned James, yeah. Actually, no, my things are spoiler because my thing's a bit too recent. So let me not say that. But basically, there's a point.
I ain't seen it. Don't. All
right, sorry. All right, let me address this. Let me address the other question that came in via YouTube because I think it links. But someone asked, why do you think there are some negative connotations to having a mentor? And I think, how deep do I go with this? All right, there is an argument to be made that at the initiation of modern Britain, as well as the initiation of places like America, where the quote unquote American dream was created, the idea of individualism was heavily enforced and embedded within society. So when you've got an underlying thing in society which is about individualism and you can make it and it's about what you want and it's about your dream and notice there's very, very little to do with community, collectivism, cooperation, working with one another. So some people may have negative connotations towards having a mentor because in their head it may be a sign of weakness. It may be a sign of, well, am I not capable of taking advantage of the American dream or, the opportunity to thrive in British society in a place that's so great due to capitalism and the free market? And do you know what I mean? Maybe some people see it as a sign of weakness that they can't function and thrive within this particular space where supposedly there's abundant opportunity. But I think that's where they actually need more guidance to appreciate that there is not one person who is quote unquote successful, whatever you classify success as, because it's different to every person, who did it without some form of intervention and support from someone else, be it through mentorship or otherwise. I know the other part of today's theme is accountability. They probably needed accountability in that process as well as mentorship, if not in place of it. So the negative connotations may come from that, maybe feeling weak, maybe feeling like, why can't I do it on my own? It seems that everybody else is. No, they just haven't shown you the amount of people that are in their corner. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah, that would be my response to that question.
Yeah, do you know what? Just to go off the back of that with Lewis as well, I think when it comes to mentoring, I think people link it with counseling, and maybe people hear counseling, they link into to weakness, and you know what, like it's embarrassing. Like, what's wrong with me? No, it's not about that. At the end of the day, this, for example, counseling and mentoring, I personally believe is different. Okay, and if you need help, yeah, it's different. But for me personally, like, I remember having a mentor when I was younger, and I had counseling. And you know, when I first heard those two words mentioned, I thought, nah, Bridget, nothing's wrong with me. What, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. And then when I did the counseling, I didn't want to tell no one because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be like, you know what? Oh my God, they know something may be wrong with me. So it's linked to maybe embarrassment, as you said, maybe weakness. And you know what? They don't want to be themselves. Whereas if we can work in hand, if we can publicize as mentors and say, you know what? It's not like that. We're basically just here just for guys. We can publicize it a bit more and say, you know what, we're going to be your older brother. We can be your friend. But you know what, we've done what you've done. And this is where we're at now. And that's how we can publicize it, because most people believe that counseling and mentoring is kind of hand in hand, and it's not. So again, what Lewis said, weakness, embarrassment, all these kind of things. But if we teach them, you know what, if you be your own person, it's okay to tell someone you got a mentor. It is what it is. So when you link society with it as well, it's like, you know what, they don't want to be their own self. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be an individual who said, you know what, yeah, I'm going to a mentor and I'm going to be happy about it. They don't want to do that. So that's why I think it's kind of linked to obviously embarrassment and weakness and all these kind of things as well. Go on, Jonas.
Yeah, thank you. So I can actually testify to everything Kieran's saying. And I was actually thinking about this before I came on, because when I was in year 10, obviously, when I joined the 100, I was just like Kieran. When I was younger, I had counseling and mentoring because that's what I needed when I was that age, because of stuff that was going on. So all these people around me had all this support and stuff like that. They had two parents, they had good finances and stuff like that. I didn't have that. And a lot of other things I didn't have as well. And it's due to no fault of anybody, but it's just sometimes that's the situation you're in life, and like it's your responsibility to take yourself out of it. And I remember my peers who were sole reasons, well, one of the main reasons that I had to go to mentoring and counseling, were laughing at me for going to mentoring and counseling. So when I get off the bus, Lewis probably knows what I'm talking about because we live close to each other. When I got off the bus stop when I was coming back from secondary school, the counseling place is legit right at the bus stop. So I used to obviously get off the bus, and they could see me from the top deck because I used to kind of walk down the road, the side of it, and pretend I was going to the park. But in reality, when the bus went, I turned, look, and I went in to go get my counseling. And then even with mentoring, I was just like, nah, I'm not going to tell anyone. Everyone was like, Jonas, what are you doing in the week? And I was like, I'm just seeing a guy I know. Like, oh, that sounds dodgy. And I'm like, okay, it can sound dodgy to you, but I know the truth. I know it's not dodgy. I know it's very good, actually. And that's why even when I first joined the 100, I was like, I told my mom, tell them with photo consent, do not put me in a picture, do not video me, do not nothing. Nobody can see me here. But then obviously when I got to year 12, I was just like, you know what, I've got to pioneer this and fly the flag for the 100 and other things I'm doing, because there's no reason I should be ashamed of it just because other people can laugh. Because nowadays I'm seeing so many successful people saying, no matter if you have mental health challenges or not, you need a qualified and gifted therapist just to talk to someone about something. Sometimes you just need someone to rant to, because life's stressful. You just need someone to rant to. So then you don't rant or complain about anybody else to somebody close to you or a professional person or something like that. And also, just to end, mentoring as well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think Bill Gates got mentored by Warren Buffett. I think, is that correct or incorrect, guys?
Sure.
It's correct. Okay.
Yeah,
correct.
there's definitely parts of that true.
So look at that. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world. He was mentored by the best investor of all time. So if that's the case, then you can clearly see that if you want to be successful, mentoring is a necessity. It's not else.
I know, Vanessa, you want to jump in, and I'm not going to take long. And just to say that it's even deeper than that. The lineage is kind of deep in the personal development world, because everyone talks about Think and Grow Rich as being one of the most seminal personal development books ever. But Andrew Carnegie, who was obviously the richest man in the world at the time of the turn of the 1800s to the 1900s, was the mentor to Napoleon Hill, and Napoleon Hill got most of his learning from him. Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale worked together, and they ended up mentoring Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor ended up being the person who Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, learned from, and then look at all the secrets. Do you know what I mean? So the lineage is real, fam. Do you get what I mean? But anyway, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to kind of add something to that question. I feel like also mentorship is kind of seen as a privilege. in many senses, because it's really difficult for some people to even be able to ask for help. And I think the idea that you can go to somewhere or there's someone to ask for help is a really privileged idea. Even going back into history, for example, like I'm literally doing the French Revolution right now, and there's like things called the Enlightenment salons, and this was like really elite institutions where they would discuss philosophy and things like that. But in those salons, they were run by women, and women who ran the salons, whoever were in their elite circle would then go and mentor the other women who were there. But people who are outside of that circle never got an insight into it. They never knew about the existence of it. And they never knew that there were other people to be there and kind of guide them in that kind of sense of like philosophical thought and things like that. So I do think mentorship is a very kind of elitist, not elitist necessarily, but is a very kind of privileged kind of thing to have and a support system to have, because not everyone has that. And then even to be in a space where there is someone there who can possibly be your mentor, I think that is also an idea that we don't really think about, because right now there's lots of different places you can get mentors. But I feel like in the past especially, it was much more difficult to have kind of that network of people where you can be able to ask someone for help. So that's just the flip side of the argument.
Could I add something to that? I mean, not add something, could I ask you guys a question? Like, do you mind if I ask you guys a question? And this may be straying away from the question we're at right now, but I want to ask, this is something I always think about. On a professional level, do you feel that somebody that manages somebody in the workplace should treat their staff like their mentees, or do you think that shouldn't be the case? So
the manager treating their staff like a mentee.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
No, I'm asking you guys, because
I see where Jonas is going with that. I imagine, Mike, yeah, you run the finance department in a company and there's 10 people in that team who are, and this is me making an assumption here, less experienced than you. Should you see those people as mentees in a professional sense, as in you're professionally mentoring them to support their professional development potentially, because they're in your team, you're managing them? I think the interesting part to this, hopefully that helps add context, but the interesting part of this question, Jonas, is this is where it kind of gets into that thing of like a mentoring relationship should actually be somewhat agreed. And so therefore, in a professional sense, if I've had no say about whether this person's my manager, I may not even want you to be your mentor. Do you get what I'm saying? I may not even want that. Do you get what I'm saying? Also, if we're going back to our original quote unquote definition that was brought up earlier, have they walked the same path as me? Did they get cherry picked and just placed in that role as a manager? So I don't even know if you've got lived experience that relates to mine. I don't know if you're going to understand how I got here. I don't know if you're going to understand some of the challenges I'm facing. So I would like to think that a mentoring relationship can be developed. I mean, to be fair, I haven't had a job for 5 years, so I don't know if I'm the best to be talking about this, because
I disagree, because you wouldn't be set up like that anyway. So in like a professional environment that I would have worked in or whatever like that, when you have like an appraisal or something, where in that appraisal you're meant to be asked where do you see yourself, what are you trying to achieve and stuff like that, and then like a support plan will go alongside that. But that's not the same as mentoring. That's just the way the business works.
But if then this is what I'm saying. All right, so let me put my EDI hat on for a second, yeah, which for those people who are watching and don't know what that acronym stands for is equity, diversity, and inclusion, which is a massive focus across a lot of industries at the moment. A lot of the people who are benefiting from, and I'm just going to take it to race for a moment, and this isn't always relevant to race, it could be relevant to any protected characteristic, be it gender, sexuality, whatever. A lot of the people, let's say from a racial standpoint, who are benefiting from white privilege, yeah, they are actually in many ways, due to that kind of like the halo effect and like being like having like experience to the people in the positions of power, probably getting some quote unquote mentorship from people who are higher up within the organization. So the reason why they do things like reverse mentoring is so that leaders can understand the experiences of staff who may be from other backgrounds, who maybe aren't in positions of leadership and stuff like that. So then it begs the question of, well, why do we use things like reverse mentoring? Or if I put my social mobility hat on, one of the seven ways into which companies are measured in terms of how well they do social mobility efforts is called outreach. And that outreach actually includes the way in which those companies provide mentoring support to certain schools or organizations in disadvantaged communities. So it begs the question of why is why is mentoring seen as so important? But in the workspace, some people are getting kind of like unofficial mentoring, and that's helping them get a level up. So should those managers then be trying to develop a mentoring relationship? I'm not giving an answer. I'm just throwing out more questions here to help us consider thought processes. Do you know what I'm saying?
You know what? Yeah, I think going back to what we think that mentorship is. That personally, I think I'd like to speak for me. Mike and Lewis. It's a thing where, you know, we will do good in this life, but we want the younger generation to do better than us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know we're going to do good, we're going to do it good, but we want to see Jonas and them doing better. When it comes to business, let's be real. My manager wants me to do good, but he doesn't want me to do better than him, or she doesn't want me to do better than her. Simple. So I don't think mentorship could or should be in business, because it doesn't really run like that. At the end of the day, I want Jonas, I want you to do better than me in this life. Yeah. When it comes to business, it might be a different situation. You're going to go to a job. He or she is going to say whatever to you wants to do good for the business. But once you do better than her or do better than him, that's when it becomes a problem. So these are things you got to kind of look out for.
But then, this is what I'm saying. If that person who doesn't want you to do better than them, they're actually doing a disservice to the business due to their own fear. Because if they were smart, they would do everything to empower you, because then you'd actually be more of an asset to the business. You'd be more productive, you'd be more innovative, you'd add more value. So I agree with you, often that is the case, but that's why often those people end up making their departments are not as productive. Their departments don't drive the same results. Their departments are not efficient because they're too busy. They're too busy trying to hold people back. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah. And also just to acknowledge that that point that came in via YouTube. And sorry if I'm moving ahead, because Vanessa and Adam, I'm quite aware you didn't respond to Jonas's question yet. But the thing around not having trodden a certain path, they need to be an enabler. I agree with that. However, there is a question there of whether a mentoring relationship has to exist, though, because you could be an enabler and not be a mentor as well. So what then defines the mentoring relationship? Because I like to believe that I'm an enabler in that I get introduced to a lot of people through just an email intro, because someone says, oh, you really need to meet Lewis. Then I open doors for bare people. I'm an enabler, but I don't mentor all of them. So it's not to say that person's wrong, but it's just to say that when you start to talk about a mentoring relationship, something needs to define that. In the same way that I actually believe there are some mentors who don't open a lot of doors for their mentees, but their ability to say, have you considered this, and stuff like that is enough certain times. But this is where you've got to consider the relationship between mentoring, counseling, coaching. Do you know what I'm saying? There's many different things here, but yeah.
I think just to add on to that as well, I think it also depends on how you're doing your mentoring. So for example, let's say, for example, you know that we do like community mentoring, so it's in a group. So in that, there's no relationship needed. In my opinion anyway, this is just my opinion. There's no relationship needed. I feel like where the relationship has grown with the young people that I mentor is the fact that we've taken it outside of that group. And this is one area I wanted to get to. And I wasn't going to get to this bit at first, because I thought, you know what, it might get me in trouble, but I don't care anymore. But because you're on my platform, innit? You're watching my things. So one thing that I think sometimes limits how you think a mentee is the regulations and rules and all these kind of things around it. And I know obviously in some cases, it's like, obviously in all cases, sorry, it's to the safeguarding stuff is all to protect the young person. But let's say, for example, there was a time when me, Kieran, Lewis, we took out a few young boys. Remember, we went bowling and we went Nando's and everything as well. Things like that build the relationship. But according to safeguarding, we can't do those things if you're doing it in an organization, unless it's been signed off and all this kind of thing. Like you've passed this safeguarding test, you've got your first aid thing, your driving license is saying that you're driving young people around and all this kind of thing. There's more than 2 adults in the car. There's so many things that I found out recently. And I thought, well, boy, I should be in prison, innit? Because Jonas has been coming to my office to be doing work. No one signed off on that. He was under 18. I've met Adam as well at hotels. We've gone and done I'm buying when we was doing the graduation. I was buying Vanessa Jonas, and I mean like Nando's or whatever he was eating. I can't remember what he was eating at the time. But I get all those things are technically against safeguarding, so they limit the way you're able to build that relationship.
But this is where you have to have good communication within an organization, because this is where you have to understand the needs of your young people, the capacity of your team, and then also how you can be more flexible with the way in which you design your policies, the way in which you design your methods, your ways of working. So in that sense, when this was very early on in our journey within the 100, we looked at that and we said, okay, the 100 isn't necessarily allowing this, but the parents were coming to us saying they wanted that. And we had tried to say, could we do this? And the 100 were never against it, but they were just like, look, we don't have everything in place right now. So we had to accept, if we do this, the 100 are not liable. There's nothing to do with the 100. If we decide to do this in response to the requests of parents, because remember, we didn't tell the parents, we want to take your children out. The parents said, we kind of feel like our children have got a good bond with you and we feel like it'd be good for them to maybe do something outside. Is that possible? And we said, look, we'll look into it first. It wasn't possible in that instance. So we said, if we are to do this, we've got to do it without representing the 100, because that's not fair to the 100. So, but I think this is where, for an organization, not just the 100 in this sense, but regardless, have to look at it and go, if we have people with capacity, we have an ability to adjust policies through feedback and good feedback loops and mechanisms. We have people who clearly have passed DBS checks, all of these things, and are willing to follow a new process. Let's see how we can adjust. Do you know what I mean? So I understand where you're coming from, Mike, because I think, and maybe I'm just being very entrepreneurial here, but I just think we should be responsive to opportunity and where most impact can be made versus solely operating out of fear. And that's just regardless across all parts of life. Of course, you have to put safeguarding 100% first. I would never put myself in a situation where there's even a inkling of I could have done something wrong. Like, my girlfriend knows me, bruv. Like, my girlfriend knows, yeah. I don't even like certain times if we go to, like, I don't know, a hotel or Airbnb and she puts on the shower and the water comes on cold and she screams, I'm like, yo, don't do that when I'm here, fam. I don't want no one thinking that I did a madness in this building, fam. I said, if that water hits your back cold, you better scream inside. I don't want no one thinking that it was anything to do with me. Do you get what I'm saying? If you're in the same space as Lewis, bruv, and that water comes on cold, I need to keep that to yourself. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I don't want no one telling their friend, oh yeah, you got that room in the name of Lewis Howell. Yeah, I heard a scream. No, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Nope. Nothing to do with me. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm on safeguarding. I'm all on it, bro. I'm on safeguarding in all parts of life, fam. Do you get me? However,
as long as it doesn't limit you, that's the whole thing. As long as it doesn't limit what you're trying to achieve.
That's it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Sorry, that's the tricky thing with it, because obviously I don't know all the logistics and the procedures and policies regarding it, because I'm still I'm trying to start mentoring now, so I just need to learn about that kind of stuff. But I've noticed that the 100 sessions are amazing, but sometimes when it's really at its peak, with stuff like when we went Chessington a couple of years ago, what else did we do? The Olympics, graduation, that's still session. The graduation is still a session. Technically, they're all still sessions, but that's when you really get to know people and see what people are good at, see what people enjoy. So it is quite tricky, and you'd obviously ideally want to go out and do that with your mentees, but again, you have to make sure there's another person present and everything. Like, there's tons of stuff, as Michael said, and sometimes just getting the parents' consent, sending them policies and stuff can actually ensure that you covered your back and also ensure the young person's in the best position. So yeah, it's tricky, but there's always a way around it.
I think that's the best. Go on, sorry, Kieran.
No, I was going to ask a complete different question. So if you want to go on, it's cool. I've got a question for everyone in this group, and I'm going to hear everyone's answer. But you go on first, and then.
Yeah. No, okay. I think for me the biggest thing in that, in terms of how I've seen the biggest change in someone, because we're talking first of all, we talk about why people see like mentors as negative and stuff like that. I think the biggest changes, I don't know if you guys remember. Well, Lewis, you'll remember, Jonas and Adam, I know you'll know him, Cadence. When Cadence first came, man came in with his hood up and everything like that. And it's a perfect example. The mum came to me, because I was mentoring Malachi at the time. And Malachi's mum knew Cadence's mum or something like that. And the mum came to me and it was just like, oh, this is my son. But the way he had envisioned what a mentor is, it was like a teacher. So when she said, this is my son, he didn't put his hand out to shake my hand or nothing. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. So I told basically the mum to believe in it. so I can speak to him one-on-one. I said, what's up, man? And he goes, well, I don't need another teacher telling me what to do. I said, when did someone tell you what to do, man? But they've got that image in their head already. And then he was like, nah, but you don't even know about my life. Is it? Mad. Okay. So what's going on in your life? But when you have those kind of conversations, but the thing is, sometimes you need to take them out of a certain environment to have that conversation. Because it's not until you take them out of that environment that they're already thinking that they come to a school environment. And we was doing our sessions in the school as well. So I had to take him out of that environment for him to open up. As soon as you start doing that, now, to be honest, I can't lie, even out of everyone that's on this call, Cadence probably reaches out for me the most. At least every other day he's messaging me, what are you saying? But it's because we've got that relationship now. But from going from not believing in having a mentor and all this kind of stuff, and maybe like I think it was Vanessa was saying it, maybe seen it as a privilege thing, or people from where I'm from don't have mentors. That kind of image, like you have to change the image of how the young person would see like a mentor, or even someone our age to see a mentor. But moving on, Kieran, you had a question that you want to answer.
Yes, I've got a question, and it goes to everyone here. Like even for us, the younger generation, like Jonas, and even maybe people older than us that's kind of hearing this, because what makes a successful mentor? What makes that partnership? What makes that so great? Yeah, what do we have? What advice can we give, for example, to Jonas, and what makes it so great? And it's all good and well us saying, okay, the good stuff about the mentorship, but what causes a relationship within mentorship to break down? And that's something that we got to also be aware of as well. And I think you actually like display that so we can have like a sense of, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what, because it's all about learning, you know what I'm saying? And even for the parents, for their young children, it's all about learning. So they might want to hear some gems as well, you know what I'm saying? So for me personally, I believe it's a conflict, and we need to bridge a gap between the different generational thinking, because at the end of the day, we think something, they think something, and our parents think something. If it was for my mum, I have to be a doctor or a lawyer. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? But then again, I don't think like you. Do you know what I'm saying? So do you know what? And I went to university not because I wanted to, it's because my mum told me I had to, because she thinks that's how my life should be. Do you know what I'm saying? So if we can actually bridge a gap between the generational thinking, things can be more maybe successful in a way. So I want to get you lot's kind of points of what makes a good partnership within mentors, and what causes mentorship and like the mentorship to break down, so we can actually kind of have a discussion and see what we come up with.
I'm gonna let the young ones go first.
Yeah.
We've been speaking quite a bit. So yeah, I'll let you guys go first.
I feel like the first thing that kind of impacts a relationship is depending on what kind of relationship you're trying to establish, and the agreed relationship that you're trying to establish. Because it's all good and well being a mentor who wants to have an impactful impact on somebody's life, and you want to do X, Y, and Z, but if that child or if that other person in the relationship doesn't necessarily need that right now, then the relationship's just not going to work. So I feel like you have to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, cool, I want to be all of this, but what did this person need and what did this person want? I think that's something that can even break down a relationship. Because if you're coming at a person and you're messaging them every day or doing something that they just don't want at this particular time, then they're just gonna not open up to you as much, or they're not gonna take everything that you're giving, and they're gonna kind of push back on that relationship. So I think that's one thing that definitely needs to be established first. And also, like, mentoring is like a consensual kind of relationship as well. It needs to be, this is what I want and this is what I'm gonna give. Like, you have to have that kind of communication. So I feel like even before you enter a mentoring relationship, you need to kind of like have that kind of conversation. Is what exactly do you need? What is it? Because like I have mentors in basketball, I have mentors in my university, I have mentors in lots of different aspects of my life. If my basketball mentor came up to me and was like, oh, do you want to go grab a cup of coffee after basketball, blah, 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 like, no, I just want you to teach me what you need to teach me. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that is what that's one of the first things that was really important to establish before you even get into like kind of this mentoring relationship.
Cool.
Who wants to go next? Adam, Venus?
Yeah. Another thing I would say for me, which is so important, is actually transparency. I feel like it's so important, just because the mentee or mentor, say for instance, if they haven't opened up about anything and they're asking me to pour my everything out to them, same with a counselor, if there's no common ground, there's no way that I'm going to tell you that I'm going through this, I'm going through that, and I'm going through that, without actually saying, okay, how do we have even formed like some level hit playing kind of field? I don't even know anything about you yet. So I feel like a genuine relationship has to be formed first, where I actually do know a bit about you, where I can actually be vulnerable as well with you, so that I can actually get something out of it. Because there's no point in me pouring out to you and then you just saying, yeah, thank you. I have to know that what I'm telling you is actually safe with you, and that we can actually bounce off each other, as opposed to it's just a one-way relationship. I also feel like communication is also really vital as well. Sometimes I can be quite bad with, to be honest, I can't lie. But yeah, when it comes to communication, I feel like it has to be ongoing. So whether you decided, okay, I'm going to communicate with you once a week, whether it's going to be 2 times a week. So that's why I was even going to ask you guys earlier about coaching versus mentorship. When you were saying like people like 50 Cent or Warren Buffett can actually be a mentor. In my head, I was thinking, okay, yes, but at the same time, no, I see them more as a coach. Someone that I can actually take life lessons and tactics from, but I can't actually have a genuine relationship from. I think like, yeah, you can imagine a relationship, but there's no back and forth until you get to that certain level or that past that criteria for them to even mentor you. So yeah, I see them more as a coach as opposed to a mentor, but it's everybody to themselves. And I feel like how a relationship can actually turn bad or rotten is when, one, lack of communication. And I would say two as well, humility and ego. I know there's a quote, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But I feel like if you get to a certain point where I'm like, okay, I know everything, and I'm not actually ready to learn, or I'm not teachable and coachable, so that the mentor can actually pour into me, then it's just like, what's the point in me even telling you anything? Because everything you know, you're going to just say, you know, as opposed to, okay, I'm telling you to do this or this, or I'm saying I'm suggesting it to you. And you're saying, yeah, I already know that, but I haven't seen the fruits of what you know in your life, kind of thing. But I feel like ego. So for instance, if I hit a certain target and I say my goal with this mentor was to hit 10K a month, once I've surpassed that now, I'm like, oh, I've learned, I'm here. So I no longer want to learn anything else from you, because yeah, I feel like it's a mindset thing as well. And you have like a set mind. So I feel like you just have to be really willing, open to learn as well. And yeah, the relationship has to be constant for me. But yeah.
Love that.
This Adam Stewart kid he's a bit smart in it. He's just a bit smart in it. This Adam Stewart kid, big up, bro. But yeah, big up to you as well, Vanessa. And I just want to say that I feel trust and getting to know your mentor is very important. So you can start mentoring and not know the person, but where's the foundation? If you don't know each other well, or know what they like and know what you can talk about with them, then say you have a little argument, you're probably not going to talk again because you don't have that bond. But say you have a bit of beef, you don't talk. Like I remember me and Mike didn't talk for, like it was early, and I think we didn't talk for like a week. And I texted him, and he was like, "Oh, sorry, I don't know who Jonas is. I deleted him from my phone after he was rude to somebody." And I was like, "Bruv, come on, man. You know I was pissed off that day." But our relationship got stronger after that because we built that bond already. So that's another thing, and just keeping your promises too, because I know a lot of you can't tell a young person a promise, especially a young person that doesn't have a lot, and then not do it for them, or take somebody else there and start flexing about it. You can't do that because you're not going to build trust with people. I'm not in care, but even from, and this is going to be mad, I'm bringing up a quote from Tracy Beaker Returns. You can't tell a kid in care, you can't make a promise of a kid in care and then not do it, because they've had experiences where they've lost their parents. That's why they're in care, or their parents aren't in good condition. So yes, some young people have their parents around, but still they may not have the best home life, or they may not have the best financial position. You can't make a promise of something. For example, if they really want to go creams and their parents are, that's not a necessity. If you tell them, okay, I'm going to take you there, you can't then just not do it because you told them that. So you can't do it to make yourself look good. You have to do it to actually, or maybe set them a challenge and say, okay, if you do this and that, I'll take you creams, or I'll take you KFC, or whatever like that. Just something like that for them to also aim at too, because there's a lot of people who they respond well to being challenged. And that Michael knew this with me, which is why when I said I don't want to host graduation and do a speech, I just want to do a speech. He said, I thought you wanted to be a speaker. Like, you told me you want to be a speaker, now you don't want to do it. I was like, oh, is it? Okay, cool. Michael, I text him after, Michael, I'll do it. Cool. Because he knows that's my love language. He knows that's my love language. So you kind of need to know their love language too. That's really important. No homo.
Okay.
Hold on. Jonas, what do you know about love languages at your age anyway, fam? About love language.
I'm saying You gotta find out. You gotta find when you find that woman. Like maybe I found mine. You never know. Like you gotta be prepared.
Listen, Kieran. You went on land work, fam. Him and Adam went on land work, fam. Yeah, when man run programs, Kieran, it filters down, bro. What? You think that wasn't part of the week that we did on relationship? Jonas and Adam, let them know, fam. When man run programs, successful circles a different thing, my brother. Do you get what I'm saying?
I was a bit shocked there. I thought, what's he doing about love languages? Maybe 20 yet. What's going on?
That's jokes. Vanessa, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. I feel like it depends on, once again, like what kind of age you're at as well. I feel like rewards-based mentoring will work to a certain extent, but once you get like past the level, the reward just isn't enough. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it has to be more about like personal gain and what do you as a person, as a mentee, want to gain, as opposed to this is what my mentor is going to give me if I do X, Y, and Z. I feel like it's more of this is what I will achieve personally if I do what my mentor says. So it was just to add on to that.
And Andy Roach has been having some jokes in the YouTube comments, by the way. So I know we're going to go back to the questions in a minute, but he said, Andy Roach said, my love language is soca. He said that why do all the men look like they're freshly groomed? I said, this is my lockdown hair. I don't know what, he just sort of fell off sort of thing. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it's true actually. Like I saw my man on a live stream, one of you man on a live stream the other day. I'm not gonna be out who it was, but he had a fresh trim, and I was like, whoa, where did the fresh trim come from? Like, what's my man doing? He knows who he is.
This is how my hair just doesn't grow. It just looks like this. Even though you guys saw me yesterday and I looked completely different. But anyway. But what else has he put? He's been busting jokes on his ones in the YouTube. You know how Andy Roach is anyway. He wanted to jump on the live, and I thought it's best not to this time. Maybe next week he'll be on. But yeah, Lewis, you wanted to answer that question.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think first of all, it's a fantastic question that Kieran posed. I think in regards to like what helps to make the relationship work well, I think Vanessa really set the scene in that, in regards to there's a need to understand what success looks like for this period of time, because not only is the mentoring relationship agreed, I think there's something to be said about having some level of understanding about the season. Do you get what I mean? The season for this mentoring relationship. So are we engaging in this mentoring relationship for the next 6 months, 12 months? And as much as it's nice to have that deadline, you don't always have to say we're stopping this on this date, but if you can, even better. So because of that, then it's not necessarily that what makes a successful relationship is their academics improved, or, you know, they, depending upon what age it is, they got into a new hobby, or do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, are they just talking more? Are they smiling more? Like, do you know what I mean? Like little things like that, which both of you can see as an indicator of success, and you're willing to just see that as progress, is what's going to help to make the relationship healthy. What comes with that, of course, is consistency. And I'm sure all of us that have mentored can say that, you know, we face challenges where we've realized, Raj, you know what? I don't feel like I'm doing enough for my mentee right now. Maybe I've lacked consistency due to something that appeared in my life or whatever. And then it's about, how do you regain that consistency? How do you be honest about where you feel like you haven't necessarily kept your part of the bargain as well as you probably could and should have, and stuff like that. So I think consistency is very important. But also, I think someone mentioned transparency earlier. That transparency is yourself, Adam, the transparency of being able to share. And it's why I think, you know, not to be hung up on this, but it's why I think that being able to kind of have walked a certain path is important, because that transparency is key. That transparency does build trust, you know. I think the ability to, you know, again, and I'm not actually trying to go against what the person said in the YouTube comments earlier, because I actually do think what they said is 100% right and relevant. But I think this is where being an enabler is slightly different, because I'm a big believer in the saying that you shouldn't send people to places that they can't stay in, i.e., I don't want to put you on a platform if you can't keep yourself there. So I can enable, I can open the door, I can get you to this place. But if your character, if your skill set, if your experience, if your understanding won't allow you to stay there, and then you drop down again, what use was it? So I'd prefer that we work on you as an individual through the mentoring relationship to allow that to happen. And then to just go in terms of like what can help to break some of those relationships down. I think sometimes it's when you allow your mentee to become too reliant or have too high expectations of you. because then it becomes very hard to limit that or to decrease that. Do you know what I mean? Because the fact of the matter is you should be able to, at some point, decrease the level of engagement you have to have with them, because they should hopefully be in a new phase of life now. They should hopefully be at a new level where, do you know what I mean? So then if you have created a situation where they become overly reliant, that can actually lead to it breaking down. Or if you've engaged in a relationship but haven't actually considered to what extent you might need to be a presence towards other people, a presence so that other people in their life know who you are, be it parents, be it colleagues, be it whoever, so that they understand the kind of relationship you've been building. They understand where you're seeing good things in them. They need to know that, because, for example, if I think that one of my mentees is growing in great ways, but I don't share that with their parents, and their parents still have a slightly different viewpoint on them because they're showing a different side, how do I then become a team with the parent to help them understand maybe you need to pull back here, the mentee needs to lean in more here, and all of that? So I think it's about understanding their community as well. That can lead to a breakdown if you're not careful. Do you know what I'm saying? Because your mentees, you're not like Lewis to their parent. Big man, their parent don't want to hear that. Do you get what I'm saying? Their parent don't want to hear that, bro. I'm supposed to be a part of the community. I should not be the pillar. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to actually touch on something Adam said about coaching and mentoring. It's interesting because I was listening to what he's saying and I was like, yeah, where do they start and stop? Now, I'm probably slightly influenced here by the fact that I'm about to finish up a qualification in coaching. However, I do believe in this idea that coaching very rarely has to rely on the giving of advice. I think coaching is more about the process you take someone on to find their own solutions. Like in this whole program I've been doing, literally all coaches do is ask questions. We literally just ask questions and then help you come up with your own action plan. We don't actually give advice in the process. And then I was thinking about, but is that true in all senses? Because I was like, when I've played football, does your coach not give you? Then I realized, no, when you're training, when you get trained, you're learning new skills. But when someone is simply your coach, I've noticed they will just stop the session. What just happened there? Oh, I passed the ball to that guy. Why did you do that? Oh yeah, I didn't realize that my man was free. So notice your coach actually hasn't told you should have passed to him. He's just said, did you look at the whole game? Then you go, oh right, no, I didn't even. So actually, yeah, I believe that coaching has very little, not saying always, but has very little giving of advice. Whereas mentoring has a lot more of the advice giving due to the lived experience, the trodden path, that kind of stuff. So that's how I would answer it. Again, not saying that what I'm saying is gospel, but that's how I would see it. So therefore, to come back to the point of as to why you brought it up, that's why I think if you've got self-awareness, you can be mentored to some extent by someone who you don't know, whereas it's harder to be coached by them because they're not asking you direct questions. But yeah.
I think for me, answering Kieran's question about like what kind of skills you need, I think for me personally, and everyone's a different mentor, but for me personally, the biggest skill that you need is you need to be able to observe like what's going on. So I always say that the animal that I think I relate to the most is almost like the eagle. So you need to be able to sit back and just watch what's going on, see how the person that you're mentoring acts in different situations. So like when they're with you, are they quiet? And then when they're with their boys, are they big and boasty? Or what's like how is their thing? Are they portraying something that's not really them? But the thing is, I don't always necessarily think you can see that or you can hear that from someone's words, but you can always catch people out by their actions. So I think that's, for me, that's one of the key attributes you need to have. You need to be able to watch, and then you can understand who that person is. So now it's easier to understand and how to mentor them as well. So by doing that observation, and you're doing observation even when you're talking to them. So by doing the observation, I can tell that, let's just say like the free that's in the room now. I won't need to necessarily, from observation, I won't necessarily need to message Vanessa every day. Are you good? You good? You good? Like you need help. But someone else might be like, bro, when was the last time you reached out for me? I needed help in there. You wasn't there or something like that. But you kind of observe that by the way you kind of, when you're doing your communication. Do they shut off? Do they shut off after you've been speaking for a bit? Do they prefer if you just ask, like instead of asking someone like, for example, oh, how's your week been? Maybe it's a good idea to start off with, oh, you watched the football match. So you break down the ice, but you can only see these things when you observe and you can do these things. So I think for me, if you don't have that skill as a mentor, it's a bit sticky for you.
Yeah,
like, you have to be able to observe that, because otherwise you can be talking to your mentee for time. Your mentee is looking like, "Chai, when's this guy gonna shut up?" So for me, there's loads of other skills and everyone's touching it. That's the main thing for me. I need to be able to look at someone. Let's say I look at Adam when he's coming in and everything like that. So, hey, okay, actually, it's perfect. Actually, I remember when we had mentoring. The first session we came in, Adam came in a suit, and I was like, "Is it okay?" That's an observation for me. Like, and the funny thing is, because I remember when I first came, because I didn't know what the mentoring thing was going to be like, the 100. I came like dressed a bit smart as well, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. But then, just those little observations, and even that afterwards, like let's keep with Adam as well, when you come to sessions, he always keeps himself well groomed. That's something that you've observed. So now, when you're trying to start a conversation, or when you're trying to do something with him, you know that that's the kind of direction that you're gonna go down. Like, no matter what it is, we can be talking about anything, but I know that, okay, if I put you in a situation, I know you want to come across as like this, because this is the way you always present yourself. So I think that observation is thing. In terms of it breaking down, I think, yeah, we've spoken about ego already, so I'm not going to touch on that one again. I think lack of consistency is I'm not sure if someone's touched on that already, but I think that's a big thing. If you're not consistent with your young person, or actually, I think Adam's talked about communication. Like, it's not only just been a lack of consistency. If you haven't spoken to say that, oh yeah, the reason why I haven't spoken is because of this, that, and the other, or something like that, at least hollering at them and saying, how are you, or whatever. But I think consistency is one of the things that can break down. And I think when someone's surpassed you and you're still trying to mentor them, I think that's another thing that can make the thing break down. And just not understanding the relationship that you have with the person, is how it can break down. I think with everyone, like I said, I don't see it as a student or teacher-student thing. I just see it as a big brother thing, and that's it. So I think depending on how you're seeing it, if you're seeing it as a student-teacher thing, then it could be hard when it ends or whatever. But yeah, that's my answer anyway.
Yeah, can I just add to that quickly? It just comes down to one of the 7 habits of highly effective people: seek to understand, then prescribe. You don't need to really, you can't go in there and not know what you actually need to help them with or what they're like. You need to understand how they conduct themselves, what their mannerisms are, all of that before you prescribe, before you actually say, okay, these are the actions I'm going to take with this said young person, or just a normal mentee that may be an adult as well. So that's how you're really going to get the best out of people, because like, there's no point if someone has got sick communication skills on helping them. You go and say, oh, I'm good at communication too, so I'm just going to help you with communication skills. No, if they're not good at leadership, then you got to help them with their leadership skills. That's what you got to do.
I was just going to, I think I already know the answer to this. Andy, again, fun question. Who is the oldest in the group? I think it's me, you know. I think I'm the oldest. Yeah, I'm older than you. Yeah, you too. They're right. Not by much, though. I get past everyone.
Oh, how old are you, Mike?
All right, bro. I'm older than you. You give away your age when you introduce yourself, and I realized, I was like, oh, Chai, I'm older than Kieran, you know. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's Mike. I think it is Mike's story, you know. Yeah.
You don't know that, fam. You don't know that my coconut oil's ton up, fam. And man just sleep well, and then just, you know what I'm saying, eat healthy and that. Man, remember, it's the vegan thing with the coconut oil, shea butter, and sleeping well and exercising, blood. Man just look young, but there's years over here, fam. Don't worry about that. Play.
Nah, I'm sure there is, bro. I'm sure there is. All right, we didn't touch on it too tough, yeah. But the last question we do before we end this, just wanted to ask you guys: do you think there's a difference between mentoring and accountability? And if so, what is that difference? That's the last question for tonight.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry to cut anyone, but Lewis, do you remember, when we was talking about accountability, when we was actually in our 100, like deep in the 100 when we were doing the mentoring, when you said to me, all right, cool. I said I wanted to read 12 books a year. And you said, when you're doing your marketing business, you said, all right, boom, like, I want to get at least, I think it was like 10 people or 7 people on board for that month or something like that. Do you remember that, Lewis?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that's the accountability. So I remember I remember calling up Lewis about did you get these people? Did you get these people? And Lewis was like, yeah, no, I didn't even get that. You know, I said, Brad, did you read your book? I was like, bro, I didn't, you know. So it was like it was like sort of like a conversation just to keep up, like to have me on my toes. But I can't speak for Lewis, to have me on my toes. That's like accountability, to have me on my toes. You know what? I don't want man to ring me next month and be in the same position. Do you know what I mean? There's this me still being on that one book. So it's also, I think accountability is more as keeping someone else on their toes, just to keep them growing and growing and growing. Whereas mentorship is obviously different. You're having that more of a relationship. You're having obviously that consistency. You're having that relationship. You'll talk to them more often. Do you know what I'm saying? Where accountability is just, for me personally, just keeping man on my toes. Because I remember I said to myself, if Lewis calls me again next week or whatever, and I say the same answer, I'm not really feeling that. So let me just read my book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas mentoring, if he was to mentor, I remember, you know what, funny enough, I remember asking Lewis, bro, do you mind being my mentor? Even though man declined me in a kind of a nice way. Even though, yeah, I remember he declined me, but I remember because we was talking often. He will come to my house, he will call me, whatever, and we will always have these conversations. So it was more of a relationship. So we had that kind of mentorship, not officially, because I got declined, but then we also
don't do that, bro. Don't do that, bro.
But then we also had that accountability. So for me, that's the difference. You feel what I'm saying? I don't know if anyone else has a different answer, but there's a difference, a big difference between them two.
Well, man's got to clear my name now, but I'll come back to that. But in terms of the question, I do think they're different. I think if anything, accountability should be embedded into your mentoring relationship. But as Kieran said, it is more for someone to feel as if they are not answering to someone, but they have someone who's genuinely thinking about their goals, genuinely thinking about their growth, genuinely thinking about their commitment to what they said they were going to do. And the reason why that's important is because it goes back to something that I mentioned earlier, which is that, like, if you alone are trying to go on a journey, it becomes very hard for you to give it the same level of commitment. Whereas if you say, I'm accountable to this person, for some reason, your commitment changes. You get what I'm saying? The reason why most people, when they are in a job, can leave projects to the last minute, but then the time they know they got a meeting tomorrow and they got to present what they were doing for the last 7 days, that day, that 6th day, oh my goodness, they're pulling all the stops because they know they're accountable. They don't want to go to that next meeting and people are going, so we paid you for 7 days and this is what you've done. Do you know what I mean? So suddenly they start trying to justify their 7 days of work. But it's because the accountability is embedded. But I think in terms of accountability, even if you don't have a mentor and you don't have a mentee, you can get an accountability partner. I got a close friend of mine who, I must admit, I haven't spoken to him in time, bruv. And it was actually kind of peak, man. I'm so pissed because I missed his wedding, bruv. But anyway, yeah, that's a long story, innit? Don't worry, Mike. If you get married soon, I'm not going to miss the wedding. But anyway, yeah. This close friend of mine, we had like a good year where we were just accountability partners. We'd literally just get on. I don't even think we used Zoom back then. We were using like Google Hangouts or something, but we'd get on Google Hangouts every week. And all we do is just be like, how was the week? Okay, fantastic. What went well? What didn't go well? Okay, what could be better? All right, what are you planning for this next 7 days? And then we just did that every single week for like a year. And genuinely, like, the growth we both experienced in that time was mad, bro. Like, I remember being so grateful. And it's funny because we've been WhatsApping a little bit back and forth recently, and we're going to catch up later this month. But I don't even think he realizes how helpful that time was. Do you know what I mean? To have that. So I do think accountability is about having someone that you're almost sharing what you've actually achieved or intend to achieve with, but knowing in the back of your mind, I don't want to go there and not have achieved it, bro, because if I can, I should at least be trying to give it some effort. Whereas as we've spoken about mentoring enough today, so I don't have to talk about the difference. But to clear my name, the only reason that I said to Kieran, I didn't think it was relevant is because at the time, I didn't think Kieran needed mentoring. All he needed was, if anything, accountability and maybe a bit of coaching. Kieran already had all the answers. He was just at a time where he needed someone to ask him some hard questions. And by the time we spoke a few times and he got asked some hard questions, he was good, fam. Do you get what I'm saying? He opened the doors for himself. He didn't need mentoring. All he needed was accountability and a little bit of coaching, and that was it. He was good. And now look at Kieran, fam. He's an author. He's winning in his career. He's doing bare things, fam. So man can't tell me that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Come on. What about everyone else? What do you think? So it's more on the accountability, because obviously this was meant to be mentoring and accountability. We've touched a lot on mentoring, but maybe you can fix it to a bit more like how useful has accountability been for you, or having someone who's accountable for you?
I think it is different, but as a mentor, you should be accountable. Because if your mentee tells you, oh, because also some people, they talk a lot of young people talk a lot, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm this, I'm that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm confident, I've core confidence, and all that stuff like that. So your mentor needs to be, as a mentor, you need to kind of say to them, okay, I like your confidence, I love your confidence, it's good that you're saying this stuff, but talk is cheap, I want to see your actions. So even if they don't talk a lot, if they say, I want to achieve this by the end of the year, just lightly say, look, we're in May now, we've got 6 months left. Have you made any steps have you taken any steps towards that? And if not, then say, okay, cool. Well, it's just, you don't need to say anything after that. If they say, no, not yet, or I've done a little things, you don't need to tell them you need to do it. In your head, in that young person's head, they're just going to be like, oh, okay, I think I need to start that then, because I did say I wanted to smash this goal, and I've got 6 months to smash this goal. Sometimes it may even take like a month to do the goal, but just having it in their mind that they need to do it is good too. But accountability, I think that's just you two on kind of as peers. I think that's you two as peers, just saying, okay, like calling up like Lewis and Kieran did and being like, okay, did you do that? No, I wasn't able to do it. Or, oh, I did do that. Oh, congratulations. What's the next goal? Like just encouragement. That's why I see it as.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I feel like in my experience, accountability has been more of a personal thing. So I completely understand the need to have someone to hold you accountable. But if you have that core understanding to be able to hold yourself accountable for things, I think that is something that everybody kind of needs to develop. For example, in terms of my education, nobody was holding me accountable. Like nobody was like, oh, you have to achieve these. Like I never had that. My family were like, oh, you're doing good. Like that's great. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a fact of you need to do this so you can get into a good university and blah blah blah. Like I got into Cambridge based on I was thinking, oh, I do work, I do it well. Okay, I can get that. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. I'm good at talking. I can do an interview. I'm good at tests. I can do the admissions test. And it was me holding myself accountable as opposed to anybody else holding me accountable. I feel like, of course, there needs to be those people there who will be like, oh, okay, I thought you said you were going to do this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? And then I feel like it depends on each different person, because me personally, I don't enjoy people not necessarily holding me accountable, but I don't, when you're going to wash the dishes, for example, in your head, you're going to wash the dishes. And somebody says, oh, aren't you going to wash the dishes? That I don't like that at all. I hate that feeling so much. So I feel like
now the dish will stay there. How about that? The dish will stay there now. How about that?
Yeah. So I feel like when you hold yourself accountable, you can almost find out what really matters as well. So you have that personal understanding of, okay, I've done this, and the reason why I've done this is because this is what I'm passionate about, or the reason why I've done this is because this is what I want to do. Because when you have a meeting with someone, you say loads of ideas. You say, I want to do X, Y, Z, LMNOP, do you know what I mean? But once you have that personal accountability, I feel like you can also distinguish between what you really want to achieve and what like your core desires are, as opposed to just being like, oh, I'm just doing this because he's going to call me up and say, oh, you didn't do it. I feel like that's more, I don't know, I feel like that's more of a, not necessarily ego thing, but it's like, oh, damn, he's going to call me up and be like, I didn't do this, so I have to do it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's just my opinion on it.
No, I agree with Vanessa. Adam, I know you need to jump in, but I agree with Vanessa in that sometimes you need the accountability to start with before you've developed it for yourself. This is why we go back to the start. I was talking about self-awareness and self-assessment. If you struggle with accountability for yourself, at one point you need external accountability. You need to actually engineer it. Once you've developed the muscle, you don't need it anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? That's why I'll be real. I don't use that accountability partner anymore because I don't need it in it. Like if I put something down that I'm going to do this week, it gets done. I know how I carry myself. And so Vanessa's 100% right that there should come a point where you hold yourself accountable. And if you're not, then you have to start asking, how well are you self-assessing and actually looking at your own growth? Because it should get to a point where you can do it for yourself. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's for some people, it's about the transitions though. That's where I notice more accountability is needed. When you've transitioned to a whole new space, or you've transitioned to a whole new level, or you're looking to explore whole new opportunities, that's where you do kind of sometimes need to re-engineer external accountability, because the thing that you're saying you want to do, you don't actually know what it looks like yet. So like, I'll say quite openly, can man talk about this even though we're in lockdown? We're here, fam. Basically, me and my girlfriend went to go and see our two close friends who are in a relationship as well. And they run a property management company together. I'll be honest, the reason I went to go and see them wasn't just because we wanted to talk about potential investments. It was also because I needed to share my property investment objectives with someone else. So now they're on the case as well, innit? They're gonna, like, we left the meeting with, I've got 2 very clear actions that have got a due date. We're using Trello, and man's gonna get the reminder in it and see, like, did you do it, fam? Do you get what I'm saying? So sometimes you need that, because now it's a space that I don't know that well, but they do. So now the accountability is embedded, because it's stuff that I've been talking about for years, but man ain't done it. Whereas now that someone else is involved, suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, I better crack on. Do you get what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyway, Adam.
Oh. No, Lewis, he kind of hit the nail on the head. And I'll say for me as well, when it comes to accountability, sometimes we rely too much on the other person as well, to kind of hold us to the fire. And I know sometimes me and whoever are out to be accountability partner, sometimes we can be too soft on each other. So I feel like sometimes it depends on the personality type as well, and actually kind of engineering the type of accountability for that specific person that you're actually working with. Because if one person is too soft and one person is too hard, it's not going to work. You're going to be clashing. One person will be in their feelings. The other person's like, you're not doing anything for me. So I feel like they have to kind of find that balance as well. And for me personally, I remember like as it goes to like fitness and other sort of goals, I had accountability partners to say, yeah, we had this app called Habit Tracker. We're all every day talking about, have you done that? Have you done that? Oh, I noticed you got red there. And there was to a point where I was just like, I don't care anymore. We're in lockdown. Andrew, yeah, we're just in lockdown. So I'm just gonna eat what I want. I'm gonna sleep whatever time I want to go to sleep and whatever. And I just kind of fell out of my normal routine. And then I remember, I think it was on one of the things I done online actually. I think it was with you, Mike. And I saw my face. And I was like, no way, this is what I look like. When I think the day I cut off my hair and I said, no, Adam, you've gone too far now. This is not you, kind of thing. And then it was someone else, like an uncle in the gym that I used to train with every day. He was saying, I'm going at it. Then he saw me and said, like, what's going on, mate? Like, you put on and the way he said so much weight. This guy has probably got an accent as well. And when he said like so much, I said, like, cool, Adam, from this day, you're cutting out this, you're doing that. And within 4 months, I lost so much weight. And then, but it was a thing where I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm sick and tired of this looking like this, or I'm sick or tired of not having enough, or I'm sick or tired of not. And I feel like for some people, when it gets to a certain point in their life where they feel like their backs against the wall, that's when they actually say, okay, I don't need anyone else to tell me to do something. I'm now just going to do it because I know that I need to change. And I know that I now see a brighter goal than the current circumstance that I'm in right now, if that makes sense. Yeah. And that's, yeah, so I feel like accountability can to be like 50-50. It can be effective halfway through, like come towards achieving your goal. But I think the end of it has to be you actually wanting it for yourself, because the other person can't want it more than you, because you're the one that's actually going to follow through on the actions that they've given you to do. Yeah. So yeah, that's my take on it.
And just to round it off, I think accountability, from what everyone's saying, obviously is definitely needed. For me personally, I think, yeah, you need to have that drive, like Vanessa was saying, within yourself to have it, to be accountable to yourself. But one thing I will say on top of that, it's very easy to keep yourself at a certain level thinking that you're doing good. If that, I don't know if I explained that well. So I might keep myself accountable, saying, you know what, I want to run like I want to have 2 businesses, like I've got whatever, yeah. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm doing well, like I'm keeping up with this, I'm doing this. But then if I had an accountability partner, so especially someone who was close to me or whatever, and I said, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur and have these businesses. If that accountability partner, they can be like, so why don't you have these businesses? You're comfortable now. Like, so, and it's easy for us to stay in a place of comfort. And I think for me personally, I think at the moment, probably the biggest accountability partner I have is probably Caroline. So she'll tell me, like, sometimes I'll say, yeah, I'm doing this and it's blessed and blah, blah. And it will either go one or 2 ways. It's like, yeah, but this is going to be you in the future. You're going to be doing that. I'm like, I'm not really feeling that, to be honest. But like, because I really thought I was doing good. But then it's a different level because someone can see you in it. But there's also the flip side of that is also when something goes well, and let's say that's the accountability partner. Let's say Caroline might come to me and say, oh yeah, you should celebrate that one because you did good there. But I know in my head where I wanted that to go, like what the next step is. So I'm like, oh no, I've just basically what I've done is taken one step up towards the goal that I can see in my head rather than what I've told you or whatever. So the accountability can go both ways, but I think it does help to have an accountability partner. Sometimes just because you're voicing something and someone else might be able to jump in and say you can actually do more, or sometimes you can be like you can be saying yeah this is me, and the person looks at you like that's not you, cuz that's not your lane. Like I need you to bring it back a little bit, like, and be a bit more. Actually, I don't like saying the word be realistic, but stay in your lane. I prefer stay in your lane, because I think being realistic is, if you've got a dream, you should always try and go for it, but you should do it the way that you were born to do it, not the way that someone else was born to do it. But yeah, before we go, any last tips, short answers, because I know everyone needs to jump off. Before we jump off, yeah, anyone want to give any last tips for anyone?
No,
All right, cool. Everyone.
You know what? Wait, before we go, if anyone's watching it, if you haven't, obviously my book, How Do You Think, on Amazon. If you wanna DM me, Mr. Laws 123, you can buy it from me directly, or go on Amazon and buy it. It's $9.99. There's a description. I'm not going to tell you about too much, but there's a description about it. And if you're feeling it, then just buy it. How Do You Think by Kieran Lawrence on Amazon? Yeah, cool.
I put in the chat, on the YouTube chat as well, your Instagram as well, yeah. So they've got that there.
Bless.
And also as well, I think Jonas, you got an announcement as well. I mean, you've got something starting soon.
Oh yes, yeah. So I'm doing a social media community project, and it's called the Health is Wealth campaign. It's to help young people through them suffering through mental health challenges during the coronavirus. And I've got facilitators. So Lewis and Mike are going to be facilitating. Got daily content. Instagram lives are coming soon, and a documentary is going to be during Mental Health Awareness Week in May. We've got a lot of stuff coming up soon, so make sure you're engaged in that, because we're going to try and bring the best content possible to help young people cure mental health challenges that they may have, but also prevent it, because prevention is better than cure.
Come on, bro. Come on. Love that. All right, thank you for everyone that's been watching. We out. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
That's what, man.
Hey, we're
Thanks,
not
everyone.
on YouTube anymore. YouTube.